There was a, excuse me, a report that was just issued from the National Archives. Now, the report came from the National Archives Task Force. When I say task force, Stu, what kind of comes to your, it's a task force?
I mean, like almost like a military operation, swooping in.
Yeah, military operation, yeah. They're grappling into the National Archives. Well, they've got their own task force going on. Hey, do we have that CNN race music? Do you remember that, Sarah? That might be kind of a task forcey kind of music. Yeah, CNN said at one point they've got a CNN race team that's going to be out there like a task force. And the race team's going to be out there and they're going to jump into action. Yeah. So here it is, the National Archives Task Force on Racism. Well, they just issued their first report, and you will never guess what they said. It's crazy. They say where America's founding documents are displayed in the National Archives was really an example of structural racism. Well, this race team is great. They suggested major changes on how the Constitution and other notable records are presented in order to provide context. Now, if I remember the National Archives, and I do very well, you walk in and it's a big limestone building, big pillars and everything else. There's a flag to one side. There's a flag on the side of the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence. And here's how racist this is. They have, when you walk in, they have this big gate that says, oh, this is important. Then you walk past that gate and up these stairs, and they're hanging on the wall in really what can only be described as an amazing vault. Behind all this bomb-proof glass is the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And when I say it's a vault, I say that because it can take a ground zero missile hit, and within a fraction of a second, it drops down and is sealed in a vault. So nothing can ever happen to it. Structural racism. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Do they do that for, the bullhorn of Al Sharpton? Because that is also an American icon that should be preserved. No, just our founding documents. Now, they also pointed out the fact, and I forgot about this, they have a giant mural up on the wall. They have two of them. One is for all of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, and the other one is for all the signers of the Constitution. And they didn't include any of the black signers. Well, I mean, there weren't any. But can't we throw a few black people in there? That is oppressive. When you see the actual faces of these monsters, all of them white, without anyone in the archive saying, hey, let's sprinkle in some black people, maybe a couple of Hispanics. How about a Chinese guy? Maybe the Chinese guy can be right next to George Washington. Can we not reimagine history a little bit? So they said also in the National Archive, you got to be ready for this, Sarah, the National Archives Race Task Force. Yeah. They also said that the National Archives portrays the individual founding fathers in a much too positive way. Oh, my gosh. Can I tell you something about Ben Franklin? He was fat. He's a fatty. And I think our National Archives need to... Yeah, I know. He was one of the, real leaders of the abolitionist movement, but he was fat. Fat Ben. Ben's a big fat fatty. That's what should be in the National Archives. The group claimed in a little noticed report, I noticed it, to the U.S. top librarian that the Archives' own Rotunda, which houses the Declaration of Independence and the U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights, is an example of structural racism, and that the Founding Fathers and other white, historic, impactful Americans are portrayed too positively. The National Archives Race Task Force also said that the legacy descriptions that use racial slurs and harmful language to describe people of color in communities are like racial slurs, but also they use terms like elderly and handicapped and illegal alien. So as bad as this is, I don't know if we're going to be able to. I mean, those frescoes, they're in there. I mean, we got to dynamite those things out. Because think of stop with your white privilege. Think of the pain that is causing. Yeah. I got it. It's the truth. But whose truth? Really? A bunch of white people? They were the signers of the Declaration of Independence. Oh, and that did good. Right. Thanks, Whitey. Anyway, a lot of people of color come through that rotunda. And so the task force would like to have the National Archives put into context these documents. And their suggestions are that perhaps we can provide context of these documents in the rotunda through dance and performance art in the space. So you might go there and you're like, I just want to see the Declaration of Independence. No. Maybe you should see some interpretive dance routine that will, quote, invite dialogue about the ways that the United States has mythologized the founding era. What? First of all, you know me, Stu, and I think you can verify, if there is anybody that is bigger in the interpretive dance world than me, I mean, name them.
Well,
I am a huge advocate of interpretive dance.
You are, and that's why, of course, you were named the number 3 overall advocate of interpretive dance in Interpretive Dance magazine. That being said,
well, that was politics that kept me out of number 1. That was a political thing with the magazine. But I was in Auschwitz, and I was standing there. I was standing in the shower room, and I said, "You know what would bring this home? No. Interpretive dance."
Really?
And
that was what.
See, are you one of those people that thinks that would be offensive?
Yeah. A tad.
You don't get the interpretive dance. Yeah, a tad. Yeah, well, probably you would say more offensive than the interpretive dance in front of, the founding documents. And the interpretive dance is basically, because see, I saw Auschwitz and I thought, it's being portrayed, the Germans are being portrayed in a very negative way. And if we could just have some interpretive dance about the good soldiers that were there.
I don't
Can we
think
balance
we should do
that out a bit?
No.
You don't think so?
Under no
think
circumstances should
so.
that be balanced out.
All right. Strangely, the number 3 guy for interpretive dance agrees with you.
Whoa.
Bad idea. Yeah, bad idea. Now, I guess we could reinvent history and we could say, gee, some of those soldiers, that were working in the camps, they weren't so bad. Or we could also reimagine history and say, there were a lot of Hispanics that signed the Declaration of Independence, so I'm just going to put them into that portrait. That doesn't mean that only white people could come up with it. It just means that at the time, It was white people that did do it. And that you can talk about all of the bad things that you want that have come from the signing of the Declaration of Independence. But nothing will ever get me to believe, no dance, believe it or not, no interpretive dance will convince me that the United States of America, the signing of the Declaration of Independence, has done more to keep people slaves or to keep people under the thumb and not bring more freedom and more good to the world than bad. Now, lately, you could make that case. Lately, when France, let me say this again. When France says, the French president says, don't buy into any of the crap that is coming out of Washington and the United States. Don't buy into all of this crap. When France takes a stand that is correct about us, the world's upside down. World's upside down. Well, it's just like you to say the world's upside down. That's because you've been looking at it with North America at the top. How do we know what the top is and what the bottom is? It's a three-dimensional space. We don't know what the top of the universe is and the bottom of the universe. You talk about the world upside down. It's you white people and you North American people and you Europeans that made all the globes. Oh, dear God.
I will say, Glenn, I mean, it's a good point, but it would probably be made better with interpretive dance. And I assume you'll be doing that later on your Instagram page or something from the ranch.
Don't tempt me, because I just might. Don't tempt me.
That sentence was specifically designed to tempt you.
Yeah, this should bother people deeply. These documents, I believe, are sacred documents. These documents are the key to end slavery. They are the key. That's not me saying that. That's Frederick frickin' Douglass that said that. What did Martin Luther King quote in his I Have a Dream speech? He challenged us to live up to the words that he quoted in the Declaration of Independence. Live up to those words. The problem is not those documents or those men. The problem is we don't read those documents anymore. We're not even trying to live those documents anymore. We haven't tried for at least 100 years. And every time we make a mistake, it's because we go off these documents. Oh, the Trail of Tears. Yeah. Why was that wrong? Because you were taking property, you were taking it. You were breaking your own word and breaking promises. You were treating one group of people like they're not all men. I don't know. Maybe we should start living those words and understanding those words, because that will make us a more perfect nation. Not doing some stupid freaking dance. And I got to tell you, it's a good thing that the Declaration of Independence and all those documents are behind bomb-proof glass. Because if I walk into the National Archives and I see interpretive dance telling me how bad it is, my head will explode. And all of those documents, they'll have pieces of Glen head on them. So please, National Archives, please keep them safe. Because I have a feeling I'm not the only one whose head would pop if I see interpretive dance in front of those documents.